time for TinChattin After Dark edition. You never know what can happen in these things, Mike.
That's
Especially
true.
after dark. He is Mike Maahs. I'm Justin Prince. Mike, it's been a week, to say the least, for our Fort Wayne TinCaps. Quick recap of last week. Obviously, good finish to the series for the TinCaps. They go 3-3 in their series against Peoria. They finished their 9-game road trip with a 5-4 record. They come back home, try to play 2 against the South Bend Cubs. Mother Nature decides to intervene yesterday. They do get today's game in. They get Tuesday's game in. Unfortunately, neither contest go the TinCaps' way, so they drop their first 2 against the Cubs. But that's not the news we're worried about this week, Mike.
No, not at all.
Not at all. It's like I said, it's been one heck of a week. The TinCaps you saw last week no longer exist. If you haven't tuned in to anything since then, you're about to be in for a rude awakening. And
that's one way to put it.
Yes. And to no fault of their own, TinCaps roster just ultimately, Mike, I'm going to say decimated. That's really what happened. And, you know, we've wondered all year when Corey Rozier, when Robert Hassel III, when Robert Gasser were all going to be called up. And, Mike, they didn't get called up. Instead, they got shipped out. Those 3 plus Max Ferguson, all part of a couple of big blockbuster deals for the San Diego Padres on Monday and Tuesday. The first coming with our friend Robert Gasser.
Yeah, let's go back in chronological order and start with Monday. A somewhat surprising trade between the Padres and the Milwaukee Brewers.
Yeah, that one still hurts.
And the real surprising part was that San Diego traded their closer, Taylor Rogers, to the Brewers for Milwaukee's closer, Josh Hader.
Along with Robert Gasser and 2 former TinCaps, might we add, Mike, Denilson Lamet, who then got designated for assignment by the Brewers because of some other moves they made, as well as Esteury Ruiz. We've talked a lot about him already this year, but obviously the big deal for the TinCaps currently, Robert Gasser's on the move.
And that took place on Tuesday.
No, Monday. No, that one was Monday.
No, the Soto trade took place actually.
No, Gasser was Monday.
Yeah, Gasser was Monday.
Yep, Gasser was Monday.
So then he goes to the Milwaukee organization.
Yep. And then Tuesday, the big one, we'll call it. We'll just call it the big one. I like that term for it. Robert Hassel III, Max Ferguson, Corey Rozier, all shipped off in a couple of deals, if you want to call it that, in exchange for what ended up being Juan Soto. If you paid attention, you know kind of what happened. Obviously, Eric Hosmer was supposed to be a big part of the deal to begin with, along with Yarlin Susana, James Wood, Robert Hassel III, and a couple other TinCaps and Mackenzie Gore and C.J. Abrams. That trade ends up falling through with the Nationals because of Hosmer's no-trade clause. So Hosmer then goes to Boston in exchange for a Jake Groom, I believe, who his name was, along with Corey Rozier and Max Ferguson, but the big one obviously being Robert Hassel III, C.J. Abrams, Yarlin Susana, Mackenzie Gore, James Wood, and then Luke Voigt over to Washington for what ended up being Juan Soto and Josh Bell. So a lot of information there, but still, the majority, the big news, Robert Hassel III, Corey Rozier, Max Ferguson, Robert Gasser, all gone, Mike.
Yeah, that's 4 key players, but most everyone in the baseball world knew
something was
going to happen. And that took place on Tuesday, the final day before the trading deadline came to an end at 6 o'clock Fort Wayne time. So that move was somewhat expected. I was a little surprised with the Gasser involvement in the trade.
I was as well.
The biggest thing is, when you get the 2 teams trading their closers for each other, that's a surprise. But that's, and we wish Robert Gasser the best because he was the ace of the Fort Wayne starting rotation while he was here. But then the Hassel trade goes through.
It was a gut punch to the team, Mike.
The gut punch was because Eric Hosmer utilized his no-trade clause, and you mentioned it, where Washington was one of the teams that he could utilize that no-trade clause. Boston was not. So Boston decided to take Hosmer off of San Diego's hands but it came with the price.
Yeah, obviously the you know, we all know the big loss that Hassel was. Hit 299 on the year, 10 homers, 55 RBIs. We all know the big loss that Gasser was, for the simple fact that he was the ace of the staff. I think his record didn't really reflect it. I think it was like 4-9 with you know, about a 4 ERA in that area. But you know, so we know the loss of those two. Ferguson only was here for, you know, a couple of weeks, so hard to judge, but still a big loss in terms of a guy that was here. But the big one, obviously, that, you know, that kind of, I think was almost, you know, second to Hassel leaving was Rozier.
He was basically the table setter, and for most of the year, until the arrival of Max Ferguson, Rozier was the leadoff batter, followed by Robert Hassel. But Corey led the league in walks. He was amongst the league leaders in runs scored. He was amongst the league leaders in stolen bases, 33 out of 37. He had 6 home runs, and he also played a very good defensive left field.
Yep.
And that loss maybe hurt more than anybody else, including Hassel, because good teams have to have a number of pieces fit in place if they want to be successful on the field and in the win-loss column.
Yep.
And Corey Rozier fits that bill.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, now the TinCaps are kind of left to pick up the pieces. 30-some-odd games left, Mike. They've got 4 left here with South Bend, counting Friday night's game, 2 games on Saturday. Doubleheader starting at 5:35 for that one. And then Sunday, back to our normal afternoon slot.
Yep.
And then next week, they hit the road, visit Lake County next week after finishing up their 4-game set here.
And Lake County right now is 3.5 games ahead of Fort Wayne in the race for that second playoff spot, the second half Eastern Division Championship. The TinCaps, one good thing, they can not think about Great Lakes at all, because the Loons are already in, being first half champs. They have to catch Lake County, they have to catch West Michigan, and they're going to get the opportunity.
Yep.
Because they're 3.5 games behind Lake County, they're 8.5 games behind West Michigan, but they play the Captains 12 more times, all on the road, and they play West Michigan 6 more times right here at Parkview Field.
34 games to make some hay, and we can see what happens from there. But that's going to do it for this edition of TinChattin. As always, he is Mike Maahs. I am Justin Prince. Elijah and I will be back with more in the locker room right after this.